Maharaj.
Haribo.
Hare Krishna. Maharaj, can I briefly just have a small recap? Can we do a small recap, Maharaj? So everybody is in now. Okay. Hare Krishna and pranams to all the devotees who have joined us today. Let us welcome His Holiness Atmanivedana Swami Maharaj. Hare Krishna Maharaj. Please accept our respectful obeisances. So
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
So this is the Īśopaniṣad second part that we are doing today. And in the previous class, Maharaj did the invocation as well as 3 mantras, the first 3 mantras. So we saw that the absolute truth has been defined as a person and he has his own personality, and we are his all servants, his subordinates, and we depend on him for absolutely everything. So we also learned that the vision is that for all living entities to practice to see how the Lord is the proprietor of everything. So the first verse was the Īśavāsyam verse, where we practice to see everything as belonging to the supreme absolute truth, the personality of God. And so we also we accept only what we need for our quota, and we carry on our lives with the principle of detachment from material things and attachment for the Supreme Lord and His service. So there are also two in the second mantra. There are two. There are benefits described for those who practice this, who live their life in this way, because we can either do there is karma, vikarma, and akarma. So we saw that only akarmic activities, because these are carried out as service to the Supreme Personality, these revive our eternal relationship with the Lord. So that is the only way to get out of this cycle of birth and death. And so when we lead such a God-centered life, then whatever service we do actually helps us to become reinstated in our original position. And in the third mantra, we saw that those who neglect this activity of the soul, they enter the world of darkness and ignorance. Because the human life, the human form of life is so valuable and so rarely obtained that after so many lifetimes, one has come to this platform. So it is our responsibility to inquire into these subject matters of self-realization and where we are going, where we are heading, what we should do. So, so the first mantra tells about our practice of accepting only what is our quota and engage everything in the Lord's service. Second one gives us the reward of practicing this. Third one tells us about the punishments that await us if we do not follow such practice. Now we will head for the fourth mantra, and Maharaj will take us ahead. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Okay, for some reason my screen share is not working. Let me just get it sorted.
Maharaj, I'll just again try to make. Maharaj, we're able to see your screen.
Yeah, but my PowerPoint is switched off somehow.
Oh, Maharaj, I think that you'll have to. Your presentation is not playing, is it? Maharaj, if you can just stop, I stop sharing, just reshare the PowerPoint slide which you've opened.
We saw this, Maharaj.
In the beginning,
In the
it had
beginning,
come.
we saw the slides.
Okay, are you on now? Can you see my
Yes,
screen?
Maharaj. Yes, you can see it.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Technical problems. So, as we did, the first part was invocation, prayer, and 1 to 3 verses. In the second part, we will continue with 4 to 8 mantras. So, we'll start with the first mantra. Just this is a recap, connection between third mantra and fourth mantra. As we described, the third mantra in the last session was describe the results of not acting in the Īśopaniṣad consciousness. Now, the fourth mantra is going to take us a little further in, describes how the killers of the soul cannot see the potency of the Supreme Lord. The theme of this section will be, 1, Krishna is in his abode, yet present everywhere. Due to this, this is due to his inconceivable potency. The killers of the soul cannot see this, can only be understood by revelation. So this is a theme which is going to build up now in our presentation today. So the fourth mantra is Anejadekam manaso jiviyo nanya deva apnuvan purnam arsat tadharvato anyat atyati tishtati tasmin apo mantra se tadati. The translation goes, although fixed in his abode, the personality of Godhead is swifter than the mind and can overcome all others running. The powerful demigods cannot approach him, although in one place he controls those who supply the air and rain. He surpasses all in excellence. So in the purport, Prabhupada is saying, through mental speculation, even the greatest philosophers cannot know the Supreme Lord, who is the absolute personality of Godhead. He can be known only by his devotees through his mercy. In the Brahma Samhita 534, it is stated that even if non-devotee philosopher travels through space at the speed of the wind or the mind for hundreds of millions of years, he will still find that the absolute truth is far, far away from him. In the Brahma Samhita 537, further describes that the absolute personality of Godhead has his transcendental abode known as Goloka, where he remains and engages in his pastimes. But yet, by his inconceivable potency, he can simultaneously reach every part of his creative energy. In the Vishnu Purana, his potencies are compared to the heat and light that emanates from the fire. Although situated in one place, a fire can distribute its light and heat for some distance. Similarly, the absolute personality of Godhead, although fixed in his transcendental abode, can diffuse his different energies everywhere. So this is an example of a slide where you can see the sun, and our little planet Earth is floating in space, and we are receiving both the sunlight and the sun heat. So this is again showing a slide of a beautiful scenery where the sun is rising in the early morning. And we can see that even though the sun is millions of miles away, is approximately at least 93 million miles away, still we receive the light and the heat from the sun. Although his energies are innumerable, they can be divided into three principal categories: the internal potency, the marginal potency, and the external potency. There are hundreds and millions of subheadings of each of these categories. The dominating demigods who are empowered to control and administer such natural phenomena as air, light, and rain are all classified within the marginal potency of the absolute person. Lesser living beings, including humans, also belong to the Lord's marginal potency. The material world is the creation of the Lord's external potency, and the spiritual sky, where the kingdom of God is situated, is manifestation of his internal potency. So, of course, as Prabhupada mentions in the purport, that only a devotee can understand Krishna in his wonderful revelations given in Srimad Bhagavatam. So this can only be revealed through the potency of Krishna. Otherwise, we cannot understand Krishna, the Supreme Lord. So Krishna resides eternally in his transcendental abode, yet he simultaneously expands throughout the creation by his all-pervasive energies. So again, here we are recapping this. Internal energy is spiritual world, external energy is the material world, the marginal energy is the jivas. Although the energies are innumerable, they can be divided into three principal categories: the internal potency, marginal potency, external potency. There are hundreds and millions of subheadings which are categorized. The demigods, as explained, cannot understand this. I think this slide is a repeated slide, so we'll go on to the next one. Although the individual parts and parcels of the Lord's potency have all the symptoms of the Lord himself, they have limited spheres of activities and are therefore all limited. The parts and parcels are never equal to the whole. Therefore, they cannot appreciate the Lord's full potency. Under the influence of material nature, foolish and ignorant living beings who are but parts and parcels of the Lord try to conjure about the Lord's transcendental position. So we are all trying to understand God with our little speculative minds, thinking we can understand him. But according to this section of the purport, Srila Prabhupada says it is not possible to understand the Supreme Lord unless he reveals himself to us. So revelations can happen in different ways. God cannot be realized by the power of mundane intelligence. God possesses potencies that are beyond the laws of his creation. No room for ascending process. Jivas are too small, the Lord is too big. They must learn about the Lord from the Lord, hearing from the Vedas. By submissive inquiry plus service, one gets to know the Lord, his energies, and his own position. So the mantra number 4 and 5, now we go to the next section. The mantra number 4 very clearly establishes the fact that the Lord is inconceivable in his potency. We cannot understand him. And mantra 5 now describes the 4 potencies of the Lord. So we are now going to a stage where we can see the different potencies of the Lord. And this, of course, as I mentioned previously, can only be realized through the process of bhakti or devotion. Tad jati, tad naijati, tad dhura, tad tadve ankite, tad antar asya sarvasya, tad tadu sarvasya bhayanta. The translation is, the Supreme Lord walks and does not walk. He is far away, but he is very near as well. He is within everything, and yet he is outside of everything. So these are a different explanation of given of the 4 different potencies of the Lord in this verse. The theme of this verse is, the Lord can only be understood by revelation. Why? Because he has potencies that are inconceivable to us. So we have to understand that it is not easy to understand the Lord and his transcendental potencies unless until it is revealed to us by the Lord himself. So the 4 potencies of the Lord is, he walks and yet he does not walk, so far and so near, without and within. The change It takes place from material to spiritual. Now, this is the potency of the Lord, which can transform material into spiritual. And this we can experience in our daily practice of bhakti. So in this slide section, we are seeing Srila Prabhupada cooking some bhoga. Of course, it is before the transformation to spiritual. So this bhoga here, when bhoga is fully cooked, then a nicely decorated plate is made ready for offering. It is still bhoga and still material, but the next section is, as according to the Vedas and the scriptures, when we offer our food to Krishna, that food which is material becomes transformed into spiritual. So that's why it is explained that the prasadam which we participate in honoring is non-different from Krishna, because now the transformation is taken place by the potency of the Supreme Lord, simply by the act of offering it to the Lord. The purport is saying, here is a description of some of the Supreme Lord's transcendental activities executed by his inconceivable potencies. The contradiction given here prove the inconceivable potency of the Lord. He walks and he does not walk. Ordinarily, if someone can walk, it is illogical to say he cannot walk. But in reference to God, such contradiction simply serves to indicate the inconceivable power. With our limited fund of knowledge, we cannot accommodate such contradictions, and therefore we conceive the Lord in terms of our limited powers of understanding. For example, the impersonalist philosophers of Mayavada school accept only the Lord's impersonal activities and reject his personal features. But members of the Bhagavad school, adopting the perfect conception of the Lord, accept the inconceivable potency and thus understands that he is both personal and impersonal. The Bhagavatas know that without inconceivable potency, there can be no meaning to the word Supreme Lord. Now, walking means the Lord walks and does not walk. The Bhagavatas versus the Mayavadis concept. Mayavadis must avoid certain descriptions of the activities of the Supreme. They cannot accommodate such ideas. The Bhagavatas can easily understand the Lord. They accept the descriptions of the Shastra with faith. So again, unless and until you have absolute faith and in the scriptures which are presented to us by the Supreme Lord and the Acharyas, then we cannot understand the transcendental nature of the Lord. We should not take it for granted that because we cannot see God with our eyes, the Lord has no personal existence. Īśopaniṣad refutes this argument by declaring that the Lord is far away, but very near also. The abode of the Lord is beyond the material sky, and we have no means to measure even this material sky. If the material sky extends so far, then what to speak of the spiritual sky, which is altogether beyond it. So in the Bhagavad Gita, this concept is established, but despite the Lord being so far away, he can at once, within less than a second, descend before us at a speed swifter than the mind or wind. He can also run so swiftly that no one can surpass him. So in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, text 6, it explains how the Lord can be, immediately he can come here in front of us, even though he may be residing many millions of miles away in a faraway planet or his personal planet of Goloka. The Lord is both near and far. So one near is Paramatma. Example, Lord Nrsimhadev. So this, of course, is given to us in the Bhagavatam now, that when Hiranyakashipu was disputing with his son, saying, where is your God, And Prahlad kept insisting, he is everywhere, my dear father. And then he says, is he here? Is he there? Finally, he says, is he in this pillar? And Prahlad says, yes, father, he is in the pillar. So, of course, Hiranyakashipu, out of anger, saying, I will destroy this pillar and see where your God is. And as soon as he's trying to destroy the pillar, Lord Nrsimhadev appears in this magnificent form as half man, half lion, and far in the spiritual world. So he's in the spiritual world. At the same time, he's here when he wants to appear and give his audience to his devotees. Near to the surrendered souls, he reveals his presence, as mentioned previously, that only the devotees of the Lord can get his revelation of the Lord's personal presence if the soul is surrendered completely. Far to the unsurrendered souls remains unmanifested. So when the child Saint Prahlad was in the presence of his atheist father, his father asked him, where is your God? When Prahlad replied that God resides everywhere, the father angrily asked whether his God was within one of the pillars of the palace. And the child said, yes. At once, the atheist king shattered the pillar in front of him to pieces, and Lord instantly appeared as Nrsimhadev for a half-man, half-lion incarnation. Without, the Lord is within and without the energy, without everything. So within, he's there as a super soul, in the heart, in all atoms. Without, he's the universal form, the Virat Swarup. Because he is full of inconceivable potency, God can accept our service through any sort of medium, and he can convert his different potencies according to his own will. Non-believers argue either that the Lord cannot incarnate himself at all, or that he does not, or he does, or if he does, he descends in a form of material energy. This argument is nullified. If we accept the existence of the Lord's inconceivable potency, then we will understand that even if the Lord appears before us in the form of material energy, it is quite possible for him to convert this energy into spiritual. As I gave the example before, that ordinary food, after offered to Krishna, it becomes spiritual and transforms. So nothing is impossible for the Lord to change. Again, here we can say the Lord can convert his potency for specific purpose. Now, example given of the change is that how the Lord can appear in the material world, although he's not material. And this experience is given to us when we start worshiping the Lord in his beautiful forms, in either manifested in the stone, wood, or metal. What appears like matter is spirit. Since the source of the energy is one and the same, the energies can be utilized according to the will of their source. For example, the Lord can appear in the form of the Archa Vigraha, a deity supposedly made of earth, stone, or wood. Deity forms, although engraved from wood or stone or other matter, they are not idols, as the iconoclast contend. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, text 11, the Lord says that how he treats his devotees depend on the devotee's degree of surrender. The Lord reserves the right not to reveal himself to anyone or everyone, but to show himself only to those souls who are surrendered unto him. Thus, for the surrendered soul, he is always within reach, whereas the unsurrendered soul, he is far, far away and cannot be approached. In the Brahma Samhita 535, it is said that Govinda, the primeval Lord, enters everything by his plenary portion. He enters the universe as well as all the atoms of the universe. He is outside in his Virat form, and he is within everything as Antaryami. As Antaryami, he witnesses everything that is going on, and he awards us the result of our actions as karma phala. So verse 5 now, he is going to explain to us the next section. Sorry, verse 5 to 6. Now 5 is, we just saw how Īśopaniṣad is revealing the 4 potencies of the Lord. And then connection to the next one is mantra 6. The advanced devotees appreciate these potencies. So of course, only the devotees can appreciate this transcendental, inconceivable potencies of the Lord. Whereas a non-devotee, he cannot understand this concept because he is trying to see everything in relative terms of material manifestation. Yastu sarvani bhutani atmani evanu pasyati sarva bhuteshu chatatmana tatona vijuguptasayate. The translation is, he who sees systematically everything in relation to the Supreme Lord, who sees all living entities as his parts and parcels, and who sees the Supreme Lord within everything, never hates anything or any being. This is a very important section of the Īśopaniṣad, that we have to try and see everything in relation to the Supreme Lord. And as mentioned here in this verse, that if one sees everything as parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, then there is no question of being having any enmity or hatred towards anything, because everything ultimately comes from the Supreme Lord, as the invocation praise explained, Om Purnadam Purnadam, that everything that comes from the Supreme Lord is complete and whole, and yet he remains complete and whole. So whole means that everything which comes from the Supreme Lord is perfect in every aspect. So in this verse, it is emphasizing that those who see the Lord as parts and parcels of the Supreme, then there should be no question of being developing any hatred for anything or any being. The theme on this verse is qualities of the Lord can be effectually appreciated by a Mahabhagavat. He can see everything. He can see the Lord everywhere. So this is the concept that if you see the Lord and his energies in everything, whether animate or inanimate, then there is no question of developing enmity or hatred towards anything. Levels of devotees: 1, Uttamadhikari; 2, Madhyamadhikari; and 3, Kanishtadhikari. So there are 3 different levels of devotees as they progress in their spiritual development. And the beginning is, of course, Kanishtadhikari, who has a very materialistic view. So in the purport, he said, this is the description of the Mahabhagavat, the great personality who sees everything in relation to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Lord's presence is realized in 3 stages. The Kanishtadhikari is in the lower stage of realization. He goes to a place of worship, such as a temple, church, or a mosque, according to his religious faith, and worships there according to the scriptural injunction. Devotees in this stage consider the Lord to be present at the place of worship and nowhere else. So the Kanishtadhikaris are actually materialistic devotees who are simply trying to transcend the material boundaries to reach the spiritual plane. So of course, I explain here that the lowest level of our development in spiritual life, the Kanishta level or neophyte, is that we only have a concept that God only exists in the place of worship. Otherwise, he's not everywhere. Those who have attained the second stage of realization are called Madhyamadhikaris. These devotees observe the distinction between 4 categories of being. 1, the Supreme Lord; 2, the devotees of the Lord; 3, the innocent who have no knowledge of the Lord; and 4, the atheists who have no faith in the Lord and hate those in the devotional service. The Madhyamadhikari behaves differently towards these 4 classes of persons. He adores the Lord, considers him the object of love. He makes friends with those who are in devotional service. He tries to awaken the dormant love of God in the hearts of the innocent, and he avoids the atheists who deride the very name of the Lord. So again, here, when you are in Madhyamadhikari, then you interact with different people in different categories. So of course, the Lord himself, we adore him unlimitedly because he's the object of our love and devotion. He makes friends with the devotees, and those who are non-devotees and are innocent, we try to awake the love of God in their heart. And of course, as mentioned here, the atheists, we avoid them because they are completely deriding the Lord and his name, and therefore they would not be appreciating our acknowledgement of the Lord's presence, and then they will commit offenses. So above the Madhyamadhikari is the Uttamadhikari. He sees everything in relation to the Supreme Lord. Such a devotee does not discriminate between the atheists and theists, but sees everyone as parts and parcel of the God. He knows that there is no essential difference between a vastly learned Brahman and a dog in the street, because both of them are part and parcel of the Lord, although they are engaged in different bodies on account of different qualities of their activities in their previous lives. He sees the Brahmana particle of the Supreme Lord has not he sees the Brahmana particle of the Supreme Lord has not misused his little independence given him by the Lord, and that the dog particle has misused his independence and is therefore being punished by the laws of nature by being engaged in the form of a dog. Not considering the respective actions of the Brahmana and the dog, the Uttamadhikari tries to do good to both. Such a learned devotee is not misled by material bodies, but is attracted by the spiritual spark within them. So this is the vision of overall picture, that Uttamadhikari, the Mahabhagavat, sees everything in relation to the Lord, sees Lord within everything, sees all jivas as parts and parcels of the Lord. The Madhyam, he adores the Lord, makes friends with devotees, helps the innocent, avoids the envious. Now Kanishta, he worships the Lord in the temple, cannot assert an advancement of others, quarrels, and follows some regulative routines. So Uttamadhikari, the Mahabhagavad, developing spiritual vision, avoids imitations, showing off fame, philosophy of oneness, dependence on limited material senses. And he accepts following the acharyas, hearing from the acharyas, following the disciplic succession. Vyasadev's work means all the scriptures presented by Vyasadev. And one who is an Uttamadhikari, he sticks by these principles and it makes advancement in his spiritual life. It is clearly mentioned in the 6th mantra that one should observe or systematically see. This means that one must follow the previous acharyas, the perfect teachers. Anupasyati is the exact Sanskrit word used in this connection. Anu means to follow, and pasyati means to observe. Thus, the word anupasyati means that one should not see things as he does with the naked eye, but should follow the previous acharyas. So, of course, we are very fortunate that by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, he has connected us to this bona fide sampradaya, which is coming down from the Supreme Lord, and it was re-energized by the appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Nityananda Prabhu in this particular parampara. And then, of course, after that, we had wonderful Vaishnavas coming down to the present day, and we are connected with the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, which helps us understand the highest understanding by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Nityananda Prabhu, and of course, Srila Prabhupada. The connection between the mantra 6 and 7. Mantra 6 gives the qualities of a Mahabhagavat and distinguishes with the lesser persons. Mantra 7 explains further vision, consciousness of the Mahabhagavat. So now we are going to go a bit more on the steps of getting to a highest realization. Of course, Sri Īśopaniṣad is taking us step by step to the 18 mantras to the highest realization. So the theme of this mantra 7 is further vision of the Mahabhagavat Uttamadhikari. Yasmin sarvani bhutani atmaiva buddha vijanatha tatra ko moha ko sokha ekatvam anupasyate. Translation by Divine Grace, S.E. Bhaktivinoda Swami, Srila Prabhupada. One who always sees all living entities as spiritual sparks. In quality, one with the Lord becomes a true knower of things. What then can be illusion or anxiety for him? So Uttamadhikari sees all jivas as one with the Lord. Of course, we have to distinguish here that when we say one with the Lord, it doesn't mean that the Mayavadi concept that we merge into the Lord. We maintain our individual identity, but we are one in spirit. So here is saying spiritual oneness in quality and in interest. So we have to have this clear distinction and distinguish it from the Mayavadi concept that all becomes one and merge into one. So in the purport, Prabhupada says, except for the Madhyamadhikari and Uttamadhikari discussed above, no one can correctly see the spiritual position of the living being. The living entities are qualitatively one with the Supreme Lord, just as the sparks of the fire are qualitatively one with the fire. Yet the sparks are not fire as far as quantity is concerned. For the quantity of heat and light present in the spark is not equal to that of the fire. The Mahabhagavat, the great devotee, sees oneness in the sense that he sees everything as the energy of the Supreme Lord. Since there is no difference between the energy and the energetic, there is a sense of oneness. Although from the analytical point of view, heat and light are different from the fire, there is no meaning to the word fire without heat and light. The synthesis, therefore, heat, light, and fire are the same. In this mantra, the word ekatvam anupasyate indicates that one should see the unity of all living entities from the viewpoint of the revealed scriptures. The individual sparks of the Supreme Whole, the Lord, possesses almost 80% of the known qualities of the whole, but they are not quantitatively equal to the Supreme Lord. The qualities are present in minute quantities. The living entity is but a minute part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. So here the emphasis is given by Prabhupada in the purport that although we are same in quality as the Supreme Lord, but we possess only 80% of the known qualities of the Supreme as a whole. And also at the same time, we may possess this 80% of the qualities of the Supreme Lord, but they are very minute in quantity. To use another example, the quantity of salt present in a drop is never comparable to the quantity of salt present in the complete ocean. But the salt present in the drop is qualitatively equal in chemical composition to all the salt present in the ocean. If the individual living being were equal to the Supreme Lord both qualitatively and quantitatively, there would be no question of his being under the influence of material energy. So of course, again, here is emphasizing, giving the example of the salt in the water of ocean in a drop. But most important part is here that if we were considered same qualitatively and quantitatively same as the Lord, as some people have misconception, then there is no question that we will be influenced by the material energy. Therefore, the living entity, its minute part and parcel, become very easily under the illusion of Maya. So the example is given, the salt. Now all of us, we have experienced that we have gone to a seaside and you take a dip in the water and the water is very salty. But at the same time, when you take a drop of water of the same ocean, the quality of the water is the same, but the quantity of salt present in a drop is much less. So the spiritual entities are meant for enjoyment, as stated in the Vedanta Sutra 1.1.12. Anandamaya Bhasyat. By the nature and constitution, every living being, including the Supreme Lord and each of his parts and parcel, is meant for eternal enjoyment. The living beings who are engaged in the material tabernacle are constantly seeking enjoyment, but they are seeking it on the wrong platform. Apart from the material platform, there is a spiritual platform where the Supreme Being enjoys himself with his innumerable associates. So now the connection between mantra 7 and mantra 8. Mantra 7 is giving us the qualities of Uttamadhikari. Now mantra 8 is how the Uttamadhikari precedes the transcendental qualities of the Lord. So this now gives us a little bit more insight. When you reach the level of Uttamadhikari, how would you actually understand the transcendental qualities of the Lord? So the theme is the transcendental qualities of the Lord are perceived by the Uttamadhikari. And unless until you are a very highly placed personality, you cannot understand the transcendental qualities of the Lord. So here Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is instructing Sanatana Goswami about the transcendental qualities of devotional service. Mantra 8. Sopranyacha Chukarma Kyana Vyaranam Asnaivir Sudham Apapa Vidham Kavir Manasi Paribhu Swayambhu Yatha Tatho Yatha Yadhacha Chasvati Sambhava. Such a person must actually know the greatness of all, the personality of Godhead, who is unembodied, omniscient, beyond a reproach, without veins, pure and uncontaminated, the self-sufficient philosopher who has been fulfilling everyone's desire since time immemorial. So the transcendental qualities of the Lord: 1, he possesses; 2, he provides; and 3, he purifies. So we'll go through these different qualities of the Lord. In the Prabhupada gives, here is a description of the transcendental and eternal form of the absolute personality of Godhead. The Supreme Lord is not formless. He has his own transcendental form, which is not at all similar to the forms of the mundane world. The forms of the living entity in this world are embodied in the material nature, and they work like any material machine. And the anatomy of the material body must have a mechanical construction with veins and so forth. So here is given an example in the proper citing that the anatomy of a material body must have mechanical construction with veins and so forth. So we have this experience that in our bodies, we have many arteries and veins which take blood all around our bodies, and through the medium of the veins and arteries, Oxygen is taken to the different parts of the body, along with nutrition, which sustains the body and which makes the body alive. And at the same time, it is not just the veins and arteries, but within those veins and arteries, there is a machine which we have, functions in the body: heart, which pumps the blood around the body; the stomach, which digests the food stuff to produce energy source; the liver helps the digestion; and then we have all the other organs which function as a complete whole, so that the human body works perfectly. And we have this concept of understanding this, at least on a material platform, from a biological point of view. And from a scriptural point of view, the body is there and has all these material elements, as I mentioned, like a machine. But that machine can only function with the presence of the soul, which is emanating consciousness. And through this consciousness, it prevails to the whole body, and then the whole body appears alive. As soon as that the spirit soul leaves the body, the consciousness is switched off and there's no consciousness, and the body appears to be exactly like that before, but it has no life. It is considered dead. So therefore, we have to understand very clearly that the material body, it only functions by the presence of the soul. And of course, the soul can only perform its activities with minute independence is with the blessings of the super soul, which is accompanied by the soul is accompanied by the super soul. But in the transcendental body of the Supreme Lord has nothing like veins. It is clearly stated here in that he is unembodied, which means that there is no difference between his body and his soul, nor is he forced to accept a body according to the laws of nature, as we are. In the material condition of life, the soul is different from the gross embodiment and subtle mind. For the Supreme Lord, however, there is never any such difference between him and his body and mind. He is the complete whole, and his mind, body, and himself are all one and the same. Now, this is very important to understand this differentiation, that we are not this body, as Prabhupada many times mentions in his many lectures and his writings, and emphasizes from the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, that we are a spirit soul. We are only occupying this material body as a temporary vehicle to transmigrate from the material world to the spiritual world. But in case of the Supreme Lord, he is the body. He is the Supreme Body. His body is not different from himself. So he is the body. And therefore, this differentiation should be understood very clearly. So here is a picture which depicts Krishna. And Krishna is completely whole. He doesn't have veins and arteries and his stomach and heart, which makes the body function. He is the body. He is the transcendental spiritual existence. Now, to understand that concept is very difficult. That is why it is mentioned. It is inconceivable potency of the Lord. But this can be revealed to an Uttamadhikari, the transcendental position of the Supreme Lord. So in the Brahma Samhita 5.1, there is a similar description of the Supreme Lord. He is described there as Satchit Ananda Vigraha, which means that he is eternal. He is the eternal form, fully representing transcendental existence, knowledge, and bliss. As such, he does not require a separate body or a mind, as we do in the material existence. The Vedic literature clearly states that the Lord's transcendental body is completely different from ours. Thus, he is sometimes described as formless. This means that he has no form like ours, and that he is devoid of the form we can conceive of. So again, very clear emphasis is made here that the Lord is completely different from the living entity in the material world. In other words, there is a complete difference between the spiritual energy and the material energy, or spiritual world and the material creation. So possesses the transcendental form of that is different from that of any other material embodied entities. So of course, we have to understand very clearly. This is a recap now. And he says he has no veins. His body is spiritual. The Lord's body is the Lord. In other words, there is no difference between his body and the Lord himself. Senses, mind, intelligence are the same, non-different from him. They are interchangeable. Soul's body is different, like a machine. So this is a recap of our understanding. Now we have to understand here that the Lord our senses like mind, intelligence are interchangeable. Means Prabhupada describes sometimes that the Lord, when we offer him some food stuff, he eats with his eyes. Unlike you and me, we cannot eat with our eyes. We can relish it with our eyes, but we cannot taste it with our eyes. And therefore, it is very important we understand this concept that the Lord's senses are completely different from ours. All senses of the Lord are interchangeable. He possesses, he's unembodied. The Lord does not assume the material body like the jivas. His form exists always, Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha. So it is eternal always. He's always full of knowledge, always full of bliss, and he has a beautiful, unique form, a body which is unlike material world. So the Lord's worshipable form, Archvigraha, which is installed in the temples by Natharas Acharya, who have realized the Lord in terms of mantra 7, is not different from the original form of the Lord. The Lord's original form is that of Sri Krishna. Sri Krishna expands himself into unlimited numbers of forms such as Baladev, Rama, Narasimha, and Varaha. All these forms are one and the same personality of Godhead. Similarly, the Vigraha, Archvigraha worship in the temple is also an expanded form of the Lord. By worshipping the Archvigraha, one can at once approach the Lord, who accepts the service of the devotee by his omnipotent energy. So here we are, in this slide, we are seeing by the Acharya as mentioned. Previously, we mentioned the Uttamadhikaris are constantly following the Acharyas, and we must follow in the line of the Acharyas who instruct us through the scriptures and their realization. Therefore, we cannot be illusion. There is no misconception. The Acharya clears us of all misconception. So in this slide, I think is very important to understand. But Prabhupada, by his own example, is teaching how we are worshipping the Lord in his Archavigraha form, which is non-different from the Lord himself. So I will now show you a small video of a couple of minutes. This video is showing Srila Prabhupada installing the deity of Sri Sri Radhalandanishwar in London.
Very great. And in Rathayatra festival, about 10,000 boys and girls followed me. I kept mine. What are you trying to teach? I'm trying to teach Rakti Arga. That is God. Some of you are saying there is no God. Some of you are saying God is dead. And some of you are saying God is impersonal or God. These are all nonsense. I want to teach all this nonsense that there is God. That is my mission. Any nonsense can come to me, I shall prove that there is God. That is my mission. That's my concept. It is a challenge to the atheistic view. There is God. As we are sitting here face to face, we can see God face to face. If you are sincere, if you are serious, that is God.
So in this video, Prabhupada is personally installing the deity, and there's a lecture in the background. The Prabhupada is saying that all these who are claiming there is no God is nonsense, and I can destroy their nonsense by showing them God. So of course, Prabhupada is a transcendental position where he can actually show us the transcendental form of the Lord, which appears and allows us to understand him through the process of realization. The Archvigraha of the Lord descends at the request of the Acharya, the holy teacher, and works exactly in the original way of the Lord by virtue of the Lord's omnipotency. Foolish people who have no knowledge of Sri Īśopaniṣad or any other Shruti mantras consider the Archvigraha, which is worshipped by the pure devotee, to be made of material elements. This form may be seen as material by the imperfect eyes of foolish people or the Kanishta Adhikaris. But such people do not know that the Lord, being omnipotent and omniscient, can transform matter into spirit and spirit into matter as he desires. So of course, this is the transcendental potency of the Lord. He can do anything as he likes. But for us in this material world, he appears in his transcendental form to allow us to understand him and see him. So he provides. The Lord is the supreme fulfiller of all desires for everyone. The devotees fulfills their desires by accepting them into the association. So of course, the Lord fulfills all the desires of his devotees to give them the transcendental association of the Lord himself through the scriptures, through the holy name, and of course through the devotees. For others, fulfills their desires too, but according to their karma. So of course, all other living entities who are not completely surrendered to the Lord in the spirit of devotion, their needs are also fulfilled. As Prabhupada gave the example, that the Lord in his entire creation of this material world, he fulfills everyone's desires. And of course, one of the most important desire of everyone is eating. This propensity is there for all living entities, whether you're a bacteria or a human being or animal or bird. So Prabhupada says in that one lecture, he says, the Lord, by out of his kindness, he provides the elephant with his huge diet. At the same time, the Lord provides a tiny ant with a little morsel of the ant's requirement. Either way, the Lord fulfills all living entities' needs according to their requirement based on the karma. So, of course, we should not think that the Lord is not providing us with our needs. He provides our needs, but limited to our karma and not beyond our karma. So sometimes we may say, God, can you give me the whole world? And the Lord says, no way I can give you the whole world, because that is not what you deserve. But if you say karma to become a king of the planet, then he will give you the whole world. So it depends on your karma. So in this mantra, as well as in many other Vedic mantras, it is clearly stated that the Lord has been supplying goods to the living entities from time immemorial. A living being desires something, and the Lord supplies the object of that desire in proportion to one's qualification. If a man wants to be a high court judge, he must acquire not only the necessary qualifications, but also the consent of the authority who can award him the title of the high court judge. So this is again, Prabhupada is giving a material example that in order to deserve your supplies, whatever you want, you have to be qualified for it. Without the qualification, you cannot be given anything. So the qualifications in themselves are insufficient for one to occupy the post. It must be awarded by the supreme authority. Similarly, the Lord awards enjoyment to living entities in proportion to their qualifications. But good qualifications in themselves are not sufficient to enable one to receive awards. The mercy of the Lord is also required. Of course, without the mercy of the Lord, nothing can happen, even though you may be qualified to get some material possessions, material entitlement. But without the mercy of the Lord, it cannot be acquired. So the Lord also purifies us by his transcendental potency. The Lord is a supreme purifying agent, antiseptic. Can purify the most impure thing while remaining pure. Now, this is one of the transcendental qualities of the Lord. The Lord can make impure into pure, but he will not become impure himself. He cannot be contaminated by anything impure. He's higher than the material platform, and therefore his transcendental nature is such that he cannot be contaminated by anything material. Prophylactic power of his association. The most impure person can be considered pure if he engages in devotional service. So this is also a very important concept of the Lord, how he can purify an impure person. We have seen the many beautiful pastimes of the Lord, especially in Chaitanya Charitamrita, that even the Chand Kazi, who was born of a Muslim religion, following the Muslim tenets, but somehow when he approached Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, simply by his transcendental association, he changed his heart, and Chand Kazi became Bhakta Chand Kazi, became a devotee of Lord Chaitanya, and therefore he was freed from his kind of illusionary religion he was following. And of course, there are many other examples by the association of the Lord and his holy name can purify everyone. So Sri Īśopaniṣad describes him as Sudham, antiseptic, and Apapa-vidham, prophylactic. He is antiseptic in the sense that even an impure thing can become purified just by touching him. The word prophylactic refers to the powers of his association. As mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text 30-31, a devotee may appear to be a Sudhachara, not well behaved in the beginning, but he should be accepted as pure because he is on the right path. This is due to the prophylactic nature of the Lord's association. The Lord is also Apapa-vidham because sin cannot touch him. Even if he acts in a way that appears to be sinful, such actions are all good, for there is no question of his being affected by sin. So of course, we know sometimes in our mundane materialistic moral understanding that we know stealing is a sinful act. But when Krishna steals the butter, it becomes glorious and transcendental. Therefore, Krishna stealing is completely different from a jiva who steals. Jiva steals out of lust and desire for achieving something material, whereas Krishna, he steals for the pleasure of the gopis. Because if you read the Krishna book where he's describing the pastimes of Krishna stealing the butter, the gopis are anticipating the arrival of Krishna to steal the butter. And whenever Krishna steals the butter, they become so much ecstatic to see Krishna so happy. And that when Krishna is stealing their butter, they are not thinking here is a criminal and is performing criminal act, but they're actually enjoying Krishna stealing, and they feel transcendental pleasure out of seeing Krishna perform this act. So we should be very careful to see that the Lord cannot perform any sinful activities under any circumstances, although from our mundane point of view, it may appear immoral or criminal. Because in all circumstances, he is Sudha, most purified. He is often compared to the sun. The sun extracts moisture from many untouchable places on the earth, yet it remains pure. The fact it purifies obnoxious things by the virtue of its sterilizing power. If the sun, which is the material object, is so powerful, then we can hardly begin to imagine the purifying strength of the all-powerful Lord. So here the analogy is given of the sun. You know, the sun by its power, the heat, it purifies even the most contaminated water into pure. And we see that when the sun is in its full glory, it takes the water from the contaminated pond or contaminated river. It rises up as steam, goes into the sky, becomes cloud, and pours down as pure rain and pure purified water. So if the sun can do such a magnificent power of purifying, then what to speak of the Lord, who has unlimited purificative powers. So in this example, this slide is giving that the sun is radiating and the vapors are rising. And then when the vapor rises high up, it condenses, and then it distills to the runoff where purified water is there, free from all contamination. So this is the power of the Lord. Now, as I mentioned earlier on, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Supreme Lord, his power of purifying even the most contaminated. We know here Chandkazi is becoming purified by the touch of the Lord. At the same time, by showing the Lord, by the Lord showing his mercy to Jagai and Madai, they were also freed from the contaminated mindset and became one of the most wonderful devotees to lead the Sankirtan movement at the time. So we'll stop here in this conclusion that the Lord is most powerful. He can purify even the most contaminated. So we should take full shelter of the Lord's association by worshiping him, by hearing his holy name, and taking shelter of the scriptures and the devotees. So I'll thank you all very much. Hare Krishna, until the next stage of our presentation.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So it was really nice to see that clip of Srila Prabhupada when he was doing the initiation and speaking. This was just wonderful. Thank you so much for including that, Maharaj. It was really very appropriate and very nice.
I thought I'd like to make an interesting addition to our presentation because I am you can say a fanatic Prabhupada follower. And Prabhupada has given us so much insight into how to become a first-class devotee of Krishna. That simply by hearing and associating Prabhupada through hearing, we become perfect.
Yes, certainly. And so we invite anybody, if anyone has any questions from Maharaj about what we did today. Yes, Hare Krishna. Anu, please go ahead. Can they unmute themselves?
Yeah, I can unmute now. Thank you. Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my respectful obeisances unto your lotus feet. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, you said like there are three kinds of devotees, the neophyte, then the Madhyama Adhikari and the Uttama Adhikari, and you describe their qualities. Can a neophyte and a Madhyam Adhikari, can they qualify to go back to the spiritual world being at the level that they are without going to the Uttama Adhikari level? Is that possible?
You see, it is a question of being a recipient of the transcendental mercy of the Lord. And the Lord can be kind and merciful to anyone. And simply by the Lord's mercy, even although we may be in our practice of Krishna consciousness on the lower level of, say, Kanishta or Madhyam, simply by the mercy of the Lord, He raises us to the highest level. Because when the Lord's mercy is showered upon us, then automatically any misconceptions which we may have are vanquished by the very mercy of the Lord, and we automatically are raised to the Uttama Adhikari platform. Of course, we cannot depend on, say that, oh, the Lord's mercy will be there, so therefore I will not make an endeavor. As Krishna is mentioning in the Bhagavad Gita, that if you sincerely practice this process of bhakti with full endeavor, 100% giving your best to the process of bhakti, then what happens is that at the time of our departing this world, Krishna says, I will preserve what you have, carry what you lack. So that time we get a special Krishna Kripa, where He raises us and takes us to the highest platform and enter the spiritual world. So we should not be concerned so much whether we will rise or not. Just like you see, if you go to school, then if you pay attention to education, the teacher will raise you from class 1 to class 2 to class 3 to class 4, then second education, and you go for further education. So if you are following the process of education, you will come to graduation without any great difficulties. And if sometimes there is some difficulties in our graduating to the highest platform of material education, then the professors and the teachers are there to help us, bring us up to the highest level and make us qualified and become graduates. So this is a mundane situation where we can become graduates by the assistance of the professors and the teachers. So similarly, by the acharyas, the spiritual master, Vaishnavas, and the Supreme Lord, we are also get the chance to get elevated to the highest level of Uttama Adhikari by the mercy. We just have to endeavor. And when we endeavor sincerely, then Krishna, of course, does the rest.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
All right, thank you for your question, Anu. And now, can Murlidhar Prabhu, would you like to ask your question?
Hare Krishna, Guru
Hare
Maharaj.
Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Humble obeisances. It was a very wonderful class, Guru Maharaj. My humble question to you is, living entities are spirit souls occupying temporarily this material body, and we are conditioned, yet the souls, we are qualitatively, we are the same as the Supreme Soul, but not quantitatively. So my doubt is, and soul is also Satchit Ananda Swarupa, but how is this conditioned souls are different from the liberated souls, Maharaj? Guru Maharaj.
Prabhupada explains the conditioned soul in his original state is pure. As Prabhupada mentions that we are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, therefore we have the same nature as the Supreme Lord in terms of Sat, Chit, Ananda, and Vigraha. So we have a form, which is spiritual form, But temporarily, we are taking the material form in this material world because the spirit soul cannot exist in the material world without the aid of material facilities. So this material body is given to us for facilitating that. Now, the soul, as Prabhupada mentions, comes into contact with material energy and becomes contaminated and starts to develop material qualities and associating with material qualities. So therefore, in that sense, we are different from the spirit soul, which is free from this contamination, and that which is contaminated or conditioned. So slowly by this process, we become unconditioned, and then we become our original form of Sat Chit Ananda. So Sat is always there. The soul never dies, is Nahanyate Hanyamane Sarira is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. The soul never dies. So we are eternal. Sat is there. Chit, of course, we are limited in terms of grasping knowledge because we are caught up in the material world. And in the material world, the facilitation given to us by the nature's arrangement according to our karma, we get different bodies. So, in a bacteria body, you are a tiny bacteria, and the brain power of the bacteria is very, very small in terms of consciousness and what it can do. So basically, the bacteria has the brain power to survive, to reproduce, and to eat. Then you go in the higher consciousness, there's a little bit more. In the human consciousness, there is a little bit more. And in human consciousness, we actually have the ability to grasp the Supreme Lord by following the process of devotion, which is given us in the scriptures. So the difference between conditioned soul and the liberated soul is that the liberated soul is no more under illusion, whereas the conditioned soul is under illusion, and that illusion remains as long as you're conditioned. And Prabhupada explains that because we are associating with material energy, then we become conditioned to think that we are material. And therefore, we don't think in terms of spirit soul, but we think about this body. This body is me, I, and mine. And therefore, we do everything which is required for the sustenance of the body rather than the soul.
Thank you very much, Maharaj. Wonderful, Maharaj.
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. So we had a comment also from Sunaja Mataji, and she has, Sunaja Mataji, are you there? Maybe you would like to read it.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Yeah, I really feel blessed to be a part of the session. It was a very wonderful session, and got to know a lot of like how Krishna's mercy and how the devotion to be, and what's the difference. Like each stanza has been clearly explained, like the Īśopaniṣad, the first one, second one, third one. I would wish to see it again to write notes on it, like if we want to go into depth. So
we are sharing the presentation with you all at the end. We will share. So
yeah,
Maharaj,
you will get the PowerPoint presentation which I have prepared, and also at the same time, the today's session itself is recorded on the School of Vedic Studies, and also on the YouTube is available. So you can go back and watch again and make notes. And of course, you also, I hope, are in possession of the actual book, Sri Īśopaniṣad, either in soft copy or hard copy. And you study that, and it will give you a very lot of insight of how to become a perfect person in this material world. For me, I am indebted to the Sri Īśopaniṣad because that was the first book I received. And that book convinced me to become a devotee of Krishna. Although I was born in a Krishna devotee family, but Prabhupada gave me a whole different perspective of what it means to be a Krishna devotee. So for me, Īśopaniṣad is a wonderful book. It frees you from all doubts, clarifies everything for you.
Thank you for arranging the session, Mataji and Prabhuji and Maharaj, for giving a session, because I came to know about Īśopaniṣad only through the session, and I would wish to go into further to study about it.
Yes, I would recommend you read that Īśopaniṣad, and it will give you a lot of pleasure and also knowledge.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
so there are resources on the net. If till you arrange a physical copy, which you all should, if you do not have a copy. In the meantime, you can go to Vedabase and just search out Sri Īśopaniṣad, and you can read that. And we do request everyone to revise whatever Maharaj has done so far. Read the book yourself and read ahead also, so that when Maharaj explains, it will become a little bit more easier, because these are not very easy mantras to understand. This is being part of the Vedas. It is quite difficult. But because of Srila Prabhupada's presentation and Atmanivedana Maharaj's presentation, it may become easier and more palatable. But by reading yourself, the process of assimilating that knowledge becomes easier. So we request everyone to please read again and read ahead and make notes if possible. And we could share some questions if you would like to do some question answer on this book. And as Maharaj said and reminded, please go to School of Vedic Studies. Please subscribe the channel. Please like the videos and do share with everyone so that we can increase the family.
Hare
Thank you all so much. Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa
Hare Krishna.
Patitanam
Patitanam
Pavanebhyo
pavanebhyo
Namo Namah.
Vaishnavebhyo namo namah.
Hare Krishna. Apurva, there is a question in the chat box.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. So there is a question. So Maharaj, can we do another one question?
Yes, I have no problem.
Okay. So Achra Mataji has written this question, that as the deity Sthapana is a very important activity as part of our rituals, if we do not do the Sthapana in proper process by qualified Guru or Acharya, if we don't follow the process, how shall we feel that deity Sthapana at our homes has same potency as done by Acharya or Guru? Vijay Prabhu's question.
Okay. So, see, there is a proper ceremony which is given in the scriptures, how one should perform the ceremony of deed installation. So you can do that, and Krishna will definitely appear in the deity form in your home where you are installing them, and then you worship, and then reciprocation takes place. But for me, I have a little bit more higher understanding by Prabhupada's mercy, is that when Krishna Balaram temple was open and they were doing the installation of Krishna Balaram, Radha Sam Sundar and Shishi Gonitai, Prabhupada had invited the Brajbasi Brahmanas to perform the ceremony. And Prabhupada was sitting on the outside on his Vyasasan leading a kirtan. And this ceremony was going on, with all these mantras and bathing the deities with different Panchamamritas and so forth. And everything was done very nicely by the Brajbasi Brahmanas. And Prabhupada was just doing kirtan. And when everything was finished, and in the evening, some disciples asked Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, you are a pure devotee. Why did you not do the ceremony yourself? And Prabhupada said, I was doing the ceremony. I was inviting Krishna through the chanting, because this is Yuga Dharma. So we may not be qualified to perform these rituals, or we may not have access to the actual, training of doing deed installation. So I would not worry so much. I would go on based on what Srila Prabhupada does. That as soon as you have a form of the Lord, whether it is Radha Krishna, it is Gonitai, or Jagannath Baladev Subhadra, and you offer them your worship and chant Hare Krishna, then automatically by that devotion itself, the Lord manifests in that form. Now, not necessarily the Lord will manifest 100% in that form, because another statement Srila Prabhupada made was saying that even in the temple, even though the deities have been installed with proper rituals and ceremonies, the proportionate presence of the Lord in those deities depends on the person worshipping. So when we are worshipping the Lordship in the temple Brahmins who are doing the pujaris, and if their consciousness is not 100%, the devotion is not 100%, then the Lord is that much lesser manifesting in that form. So I would say that is one for the pujaris. Now the devotees who are outside the altar, offering their prayers and singing the holy name and taking darshan of the Lord. Now each one of you will see the Lord manifest differently according to your devotion and your purification. So if your heart is 100%, you will actually see 100%. Person standing next to you is only 50%. So that person will only see 50% because the Lord will manifest individually according to the amount of purification and devotion in our heart. So therefore we endeavor to become 100% pure in our heart, and the Lord will manifest 100%. So as far as the deity in our home is concerned, if we offer nice food stuff with the mindset that here is the Lord, here is Radha Krishna, here is Jagannath Baladev Subhadra, or here is Gonitai, then that Lord will manifest in that through our devotion. Because in Kali Yuga, rituals are not so important, but more is devotion. And our shastras are all devotional shastras, where it's encouraging us to perform devotion. So devotion is a more important aspect than the rituals. You may do the rituals, but if there's no devotion, then it's just showpiece. You are doing some, some phantasmagoric ceremony, elaborate ceremony, but there's no devotion in it. So Krishna will not manifest. As Krishna says, that I reciprocate with everyone according to how you reciprocate with me. So our devotion increases, Krishna also increases. So we should not be so concerned that, oh, we didn't do the full ceremony and it was not, the Lord was not installed properly. The Lord becomes installed 100% by our devotion, not by some rituals. But of course, sometimes the rituals are there. That's so Prabhupada explained to his disciples at that time that the reason the Brajbasi Brahmanas were invited, because they are kind of a little bit smarter, and they would not accept we installing them, and they would say, oh, this, as we all know, that even after Krishna Balaram temple was open, the local people are saying this is Angrez temple, this is white people's temple. So, there is always this very kanishta understanding. But we have to make adjustment, and my understanding is very clear. Devotion is the key for the Lord to manifest for you.
Thank you very much, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Very nice explanation, Maharaj.
Thank you for that answer, Maharaj. I think it gladdens all of us, makes us so happy that
I'm
we
just
all
repeating
have.
what Prabhupada has given us.
Thank you.
Insight of how to connect with the Supreme Lord.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank
you
you
very
for
much, Mataji.
Always. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Thank you all. See you next week. Hare Krishna.
Mama, there's another raised hand.